Have you ever felt someone slipping away from you, one small step at a time, while you stand there helpless to stop it? That's how I describe what happened to my marriage. Laura and I used to have what felt like the kind of love you only read about in books. We had shared dreams, lazy evenings on the couch watching our favorite shows, and a bond I thought was unbreakable. For years, I believed we were inseparable, that we were partners in every sense of the word. But then something shifted. It wasn't obvious at first. Little things started changing, things you wouldn't even think to question. Her hugs felt less warm, more like an obligation. And the intimacy we once shared, that was the first to go. At first, I told myself it was just stress, maybe work was getting to her, or life was weighing her down. I made excuses for her, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than that. It wasn't just that she was absent, it was the way she seemed eager to be anywhere but with me. She'd find reasons to leave the house, even when there was no need. And it wasn't just her leaving, it was her attitude when she did. Like being with me was a burden she couldn't wait to put down. That's when I knew something was wrong. But instead of confronting her, I decided to wait, to watch. To figure out exactly what was happening and see if I could salvage our marriage. Because I was in love. She started coming home later than usual. At first, it was the occasional late night, claiming she had deadlines to meet or last-minute meetings to attend. I didn't think much of it. She worked in a fast-paced field, so these things happened. But then those late nights became a routine. Dinner would be cold on the table, and her phone calls to let me know she'd be late grew shorter and vaguer. She'd say things like, "Don't wait up," or "I'll explain when I get home." But she never really did. The explanations, when they came, were as thin as paper. Her secrecy didn't stop there. She started keeping her phone on silent, tucking it under her pillow at night. And brushing off even the most innocent questions with, "Why are you asking?" or "You're overthinking it." It was as if she was building a wall, brick by brick, shutting me out of the life we once shared. I didn't start out wanting to spy on my wife. For years, I believed that love meant trust, and trust meant giving your partner the benefit of the doubt, no matter what. At first, I tried to fix things, planning date nights, asking her what was wrong. Even giving her more space when she claimed she was too busy or stressed. But nothing worked. Instead of warming up to me, she grew colder. Her excuses became more frequent, and her absences felt longer. Eventually, I couldn't ignore the truth. Laura had fallen out of love with me. There was no more intimacy, no more genuine smiles, not even the smallest spark of connection. I couldn't pretend everything was fine anymore. But I didn't want to accuse her without knowing for sure. That's when I decided to find out what was really going on. So I hired a private investigator. It felt strange, almost wrong, to involve someone else in something so personal. But I had no other choice. If my marriage was going to crumble, I needed to know the truth first. The investigator didn't take long. Just 3 days later, he handed me the evidence I was too afraid to find myself. Photos of Laura meeting another man at a downtown hotel. His name was Greg. He wasn't just a coworker or a casual friend, he was her lover. For weeks, I had lived with this gnawing uncertainty, wondering if I was imagining things. Or if there really was something wrong. And now, I didn't have to wonder anymore. The truth was staring back at me, and it wasn't just heartbreaking, it was undeniable. But I didn't confront her, not then. Exploding in anger or throwing accusations wouldn't fix anything. It wouldn't undo the betrayal. Instead, I took a different approach. I prepared. First, I called a lawyer. I needed to know my rights, my options, and how to protect myself if this all went south. Next, I secured my financial assets. Laura didn't know it yet, but I wasn't going to let her take advantage of me any more than she already had. And then, I focused on myself. mentally preparing for what was to come. I knew the fallout would be messy. There was no way to untangle years of love and trust without pain. But I also knew I couldn't let this break me. I had all the proof I needed. Now I just had to decide when and how to use it. One evening, Laura surprised me with a proposal I never saw coming. We were sitting in the living room after dinner. She had gone out of her way to prepare one of my favorite meals, something she hadn't done in months. It was like she was softening me up for what she was about to say. I noticed how carefully she chose her words. "Alex," she started, her voice light but carrying an edge of determination. "I've been thinking, maybe we should try something new to spice up our marriage." I raised an eyebrow but didn't interrupt. "You know," she continued, "we've been together for so long, and I think it's only natural that things can feel a little stale. A lot of couples are trying open relationships now. It's progressive, modern, and it could really bring us closer." Her tone was confident, almost patronizing. Like she was giving me some grand enlightenment that I'd been too traditional to grasp. She even smiled, as if expecting me to nod along eagerly. What she didn't know was that I'd already been 2 steps ahead of her. I listened intently, nodding at the right moments, keeping my face neutral. Inside, I felt a storm brewing, a mix of betrayal, anger, and, strangely enough, vindication. She was so sure I'd meekly agree to her so-called modern solution. As if I didn't already know the truth. I let her finish. When she finally stopped talking, I leaned back in my chair, clasped my hands together, and gave her a small smile. "That's an interesting idea, Laura," I said, keeping my tone calm and steady. "But before we make any decisions, I think it's only fair I tell you something." Her smile faltered slightly, but she tried to mask it with curiosity. "Tell me what?" she asked, her voice carrying a hint of uncertainty. I took a deep breath and began. "I know, Laura, I know about Greg. I know about the late-night hotel meetups, the expensive dinners, and the conversations you thought were private." Her face turned pale, and her mouth opened slightly, as if to protest, but no words came out. "You weren't looking for adventure," I continued, my voice still calm but firmer now. "You were looking for a way to justify what you were already doing. And to be honest, I'm not surprised you chose this moment to bring it up. You thought you had the upper hand, didn't you?" Laura sat frozen, her confidence evaporating like steam. She looked like she wanted to deny it, to fight back, but she knew there was no point. I had all the evidence, the photos, the receipts, even snippets of messages between her and Greg. I could see the realization sinking in. She wasn't in control of the situation anymore. Then I delivered the final blow. "By the way, Greg is married, did he ever mention that? Because I know he hasn't told you he's planning to leave his wife. This little adventure you're so excited about, it was never going to end the way you thought." Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to find the words, but nothing came out. For the first time in months, she had no clever retorts, no excuses, no patronizing tone, just silence. I stood up, looking down at her, and said the words I'd been preparing for weeks. "I'd prefer we finalize the divorce instead. There's nothing left to discuss." Laura couldn't say a word, she just sat there, staring at me like a deer caught in headlights. I could see the wheels turning in her mind, but no words came out. And honestly, what could she say? She knew I wasn't guessing or accusing her without proof. I already had more evidence than she could imagine. Hotel receipts, messages, pictures, every detail of her affair was laid bare. There was no point in denying it or trying to defend herself. I could feel the weight of the silence in the room. It was heavy, almost suffocating. Laura wasn't just silent because she didn't know what to say. She was silent because she knew she had lost. She wasn't in control anymore. For months, she had been the one calling the shots, hiding her lies while I sat in the dark. But now, the tables had turned, and she knew it. "We'll separate until the divorce is finalized," I said firmly, breaking the silence. My voice was calm but unyielding. There was no room for negotiation in my tone. She knew this wasn't up for debate. She just nodded, her eyes glistening with tears she hadn't let fall yet. I could tell she wanted to say something, maybe to beg, maybe to blame me, or maybe just to try and explain. But she didn't. She must have realized that no excuse would work, not now. In that moment, I think it hit her, this was the end. There was no way to rewind or undo what had been done. She didn't have a choice, I had the upper hand now. I held all the cards, and for once, she was the one left scrambling to figure out what to do next. As I stood up and walked out of the room, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I had won anything. If anything, I felt a strange emptiness, like I was finally letting go of something I had been holding on to for far too long. The life we had built, the promises we had made, they were all gone now. And Laura was the one who had broken them. Weeks after our separation, Laura tried reaching out to me. At first, she sent a few casual messages, things like, "Can we talk?" or, "I think we should meet." I ignored them. I wasn't interested in reopening wounds or engaging in pointless conversations. But Laura didn't give up. One day, she called. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her tone was different, quieter, softer. She started with an apology. "Alex, I'm sorry for everything, I made a terrible mistake." I listened, but I didn't say much. She went on, asking if there was any chance we could work things out. I couldn't help but chuckle. It wasn't a laugh of amusement, it was one of disbelief. The woman who confidently suggested opening our marriage, who thought she could play me for a fool, now wanted to reconcile. It was clear why. I guess she finally realized that her lover, Greg, had no serious intentions for her. Maybe he'd stopped calling, maybe she found out he was never going to leave his wife. Whatever the reason, she was back, hoping I'd take her in like nothing had happened. "Laura," I said calmly, "I appreciate the apology, and I'm glad you've realized I'm desirable. But honestly, you should have appreciated me when I was all yours." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I didn't feel anger or sadness anymore, just clarity. I had given Laura everything, loyalty, love, trust, and she threw it all away. We agreed to stay separated until the divorce was finalized. It wasn't like she had a choice. I had the upper hand now, and she knew it. Hanging up that call, I felt a sense of closure. It wasn't about revenge or making her regret her actions. It was about finally valuing myself enough to walk away from someone who didn't. As we await the finalization of the divorce, I can't say I know exactly what the future holds for me. There's a lot of uncertainty ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I feel a spark of excitement. It's strange to think about starting over, building a new life from scratch. After spending years tied to someone who betrayed my trust. I won't lie, the thought of being on my own is intimidating. For years, I imagined growing old with Laura, sharing our successes and failures, and facing life's challenges together. Now that vision is gone. But I've realized something important. Holding on to the wrong person out of fear of the unknown is far worse than facing that fear head-on. I'm not sure where this road will lead. Maybe I'll pick up hobbies I've always been curious about, like learning to play the guitar. Or traveling to places I've only seen in photos. Maybe I'll reconnect with old friends or make new ones who share my values. Whatever happens, I know I'll be walking this path as a man who respects himself. Someone who won't settle for anything less. It's not about jumping into a new relationship or rushing to fill the void Laura left behind. It's about rediscovering who I am without the weight of her lies pulling me down. It's about moving forward with clarity and purpose, knowing I deserve better. So while I can't predict what life has in store for me, I'm ready to embrace it. For the first time in years, I'm not held back by doubt or suspicion. The road ahead may be unclear, but I'm finally free to walk it on my own terms. And that, to me, is worth more than anything I've lost.